Welcome back to Fast Market here on the Schwab Network. It's time for our cash tag segment. So let's bring in our next guest, and that's going to be Landon Swan. He's a co-founder at Likefolio. Welcome back to the show, Landon.
Thank you. Good to be here.
All right, Lululemon. Every quarter we talk about this one. Stocks had a decent year, up about 19%, but it's been consolidating lately. And I think it might be a reflection of some of the earnings that have been coming out. I know this is the high end of athleisure wear, but you look at some of the results from like Dick's Sporting Goods, Foot Locker, Nike's been lagging and struggling. What kind of data are you guys seeing? Because it seems like this thing's kind of starting to tighten up here a little bit. We could have moves either way in this stock.
Yeah, it is. It's. I feel like it's a spring and it's coiling, and it's doing it kind of at highs, right? Like resistance levels, if you will, and that has me a little bit concerned. But the data's pretty strong, actually. I mean, it's not incredible, but it's definitely strong. So when you look at, how well they've been doing against peers, their happiness has traditionally been much higher. But they've recently suffered a dip from, I think, 82 down to 72%. And a lot of it has to do with how they've been handling the shrinkage, right? The theft. And they actually, there's a lot of backlash over firing or disciplining employees who are trying to thwart shoplifters, which, in my mind, you're just opening the doors at that point. But yeah, when people talk about the clothing, the happiness level is very high, but the brand is suffering a little bit from this kind of talk, and it's not something we've normally seen as Lulu lagging behind in happiness. So again, they were about 82 before, so they were right there with Athleta and Viore, but now they're lower, and so there's a little concern with that. And actually, when you look at investor chatter around shoplifting, it's up about 50% on a year-over-year basis. That's investor chatter. So investors are very concerned. They want to hear what's going on. And after we saw what happened with Dick's, of course, that's going to be a question. So they're not immune to this. I think it's going to be a concern on the call. How are they handling it? How bad is it? And what's their plan? The good news is that they do a lot of direct-to-consumer, right? So there's just shipping right to you. You go onto the website, you buy it. There's no shipping there. And so that's up about 24%. Web visits are up about 24%, which is better than Gap's Athleta, better than Viore, better than Nike, better than all three of these. So very happy with the number of web visits that we're seeing out of them on a year-over-year basis. You can see here the competition is they're all doing fairly well, besides Nike, who's kind of lackluster. But Lululemon is leading the pack on web visit increase, and this was part of their it's part of their vision from 2019. They called it the power of three. They wanted to double men's revenue, double digital, and quadruple international. And when we look at how things have gone, their net revenue has been doubled and their net income is up about 45%. And now they're talking about basically doing that again. They're saying, all right, let's do it again. Let's double men's revenue again. Let's double digital. Let's 4X international. They're very aggressive in their goals, and they've shown the ability to really execute with high quality products. So long term, love this company. Short term, the only concerns that I really have are about the theft and the shoplifting, and then the expectations. It's had a nice run this week. Not nearly as large as the expected moves. So it's not, it's not all priced in, but investors are definitely expecting a lot out of this one. So it's on the higher end, on the price you're in going into earnings. So those things give me a little pause. But if it were to sell off, I would be a long-term buyer, at 360 for sure.
Yeah, Landon, 42% of their total sales now are online, but 65% of their total sales are U.S. Landon, how does Likefolio plan to when you look at a company like this? Because Asia, how about this? China's sales up 80% in the last quarter. They grew 80%. Europe is a big part of their growth. Places other than the U.S. is a big part of that international growth that you guys talked about. How should we look at that? Likefolio focuses, I know, on the U.S., but what should we do? How should we proceed if we think the real numbers here are going to be abroad, right? We know digital, we know what the U.S. is doing. What do we do here? How do we navigate this to know if what they're planning to do overseas is working?
Sure. So, the U.S. is the focus for our social data, where people are talking online about what they like. But when it comes to web data, it's global. So that web data that I'm telling you about, that plus 24% year over year, that's a global number. So we can lean on that pretty strong and just see what mentions are looking like in the U.S. and try to translate that through that web data. But overall, it looks very strong. Now, again, that direct to consumer is only a portion, like you said, 40% or so. It's only a portion of their total sales, but I think it does give you insight into the rest of it, right? If you like Lulu and you go to the store a lot, you're going to end up buying online or vice versa. So the fact that it's up 24% year over year and it's leading all of its competitors tells me that things are looking pretty good for the company. But this chart right here is what kind of bothers me, right? I mean, it has run up to this level over and over and over again, and now we're running up to it right before earnings. That gives me a little bit of pause at this level. I mean, if this stock was trading at 360, I'm saying let's go. This is a great bullish trade. At 380, 385, I'm just a little bit hesitant. And I'm almost hoping it sells off so I can pick up some shares tomorrow. But if, on the earnings play itself, the score is plus 22, barely in that bullish category. That takes into account where the stock is at. So we're still comfortable betting to the upside, but I'd love to hear you guys' thoughts on investor expectations with the stock running up to these levels where it just has had so much trouble in the past.
Yeah, they're expecting about a plus or minus $22 move or $26 move in the shares post earnings. But Landon, we've seen it in the retail earnings. We talked about it earlier on the show. The divergence that we're seeing between the winners and losers in this space, is it the high end that's getting rewarded because it's more of a resilient consumer, according to your data, or is it just maybe execution issues on some of these? Dollar General getting hammered today. We mentioned Dick's, Foot Locker. Those two stocks have been hammered since earnings, but then we see Abercrombie and Fitch doing really well, hitting highs.
Yeah, you know what? I think it's a little bit of both. I mean, I think execution is the more important thing, and you've seen that. You can see companies that, for example, a year ago or so, when we looked at Dollar Tree, Dollar General versus the newcomer Five Below. Five Below executed better. They did better, even though they had the same customer, basically. So I think that it's definitely nicer to have a more affluent customer who's more resilient to inflation and concerns like that. But when it comes down to it, the execution at the company level is what makes or breaks a company. We're actually seeing that across all of the industries. We are seeing the winners and losers branch out and spread that, increase the distance between them and their peers because of mostly in use of technology and just execution overall. But technology is really big, and we're seeing that grow more and more and as a separator between winners and losers. So I say look at the company. How have they done over the last 2 or 3 years? We talked about that power of three strategy that they executed very well. They're trying to do it again. I like to bet on people, and the people at Lulu have done a fantastic job.
Yeah, good quality, and that's what they're known for. We'll see. Big move expected in this one. All right, great data. Thanks, Landon. Have a great day.
Take care. Thank you.
That's Landon Swan, co-founder at